Excellent. It's 5:01, Thursday. Is it September 14th? This is the Conservation Commission meeting. I'll start with a roll call. If you want to just say Susan Schweitzer here, and Andros.
Andros here.
John Cusack here. Christopher here, and Silvio on Zoom.
And Silvio here on Zoom, though I may jump off around 5:30.
Understood. And then our guest is Tiger Man. So thank you, Tiger, for joining us. We'll get right to you in a second. I have the minutes in front of me from May 11th and June 8th, which I believe we approved previously, Susan. So I will sign those. I'm not.
Should be on the recent minutes that you had made. I believe you did too, but I think it should be recorded in the minutes of your last meeting in August.
Right, in July, right. Okay, then we'll, I'll just reinforce that these meeting minutes were, Linda, in June, it was myself, John, and Linda. And then in May, it was all of them. Myself and Linda, Susan, John, you were absent. All right. So move to approve the minutes of June 8th would be the three of us. Motion approved. Okay, all in favor? Approved. And then the main minutes, that's Ann, Linda, Susan, and myself, move to approve. So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. These minutes are approved. Okay, on to the agenda.
And what about July 13th?
I don't have that with me here. I only have the two, so I guess there, wait, maybe I didn't edit it out, or you didn't, maybe
I
it
sent it to you.
sent to me that it might not have gotten printed out. I'll do that next meeting.
Okay.
On the agenda, we'll start with, because we have Tiger, and are you in-house or at home, Tiger?
I'm at home.
Okay.
I was in-house, I'd walk upstairs, but yeah, no, I'm
That might as well be here.
Might as well, right? Tiger, since you're here and you're home, I don't want to keep you too long. If you could give us an update on progress regarding the Centennial Phase 4 and the Green Link aspects, I'd love to hear it.
sure. So, well, thanks for having me. So I saw on your agenda too, you got the Household Hazardous Waste Day and Shred Day. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That you have that there. We're posting that on social media, and then trying to put that out elsewhere. The Shred Day is right now 8 to 1. So if you wanted to put that down as well. So Shred Day is just an hour less. But as far as Bristow goes, we are out to bid for Phase 4. Bids are due back in a week from today, 21st. We sent it out to 5-6 contractors, heard back from a couple as far as questions. So we're anticipating good return, and we can go from there. One of the big aspects of it is, let me see here, if I can share my screen, I'll show you the, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to orient you, at the top of the screen, this is the Mead Park parking lot. The lodge is right in here.
Yeah.
So this is the island at Mead Park, kind of where you circulate around for traffic. We have a little shed here for baseball, and then the Bristow sign is right here. This walkway is proposed as part of the plan. And it basically is a flexi-paved path all the way down up the hill and over, and then a subsequent path alongside the baseball field to then get you into the park itself at the lower path level. So this would be more of an ADA friendly, senior friendly path walking along the baseball field into this lower entrance where the path goes along the stream. This upward one, the grades are a little bit too steep to be ADA compliant. This lower one would be. So that's part of the plan itself. part of the project to be done along with the rest of the Bristow work. The Bristow work's got some trail work and some plantings and some other work associated with it. So we're kind of excited to finish the last phase of the work and get that done. Does anybody have any questions on Bristow before I go forward?
Just briefly on the ADA compliance, we'll get notice of that, or I'm a little.
As we build it, we're gonna try to make sure that we are compliant, all the way through. The trail itself gets a little bit difficult once you get into the park, but to get people there, and hopefully we can kind of take out maybe some of the rocks and roots that are along that lower trail, so we can get everybody in further towards the pavilion. But as far as the park itself, we had our consultants come in and review the park and the trails. I'm waiting for their report back, and I'm hoping that they're going to give us a good read on the fact that coming from Old Stamford Road, we'd be compliant. Coming from here, right now we aren't, but with this plan and a little bit of additional work, we might be the park might be, it won't be fully compliant because we can't get to every aspect of the park, but at least a good portion of it you can walk through and kind of make your way from Mead all the way through. So if you wanted to be part of the Green Link, you could do this portion. So, but I'm waiting for them to come back with their final. They spent about 2 weeks in all of our parks a couple of weeks ago, so I'm waiting for their report to come back for that.
Other than the obvious benefits of people being able to access it, getting the ADA stamp on it, does that have any significance?
It's only from a legal aspect, and the fact that we're trying to make all of our programs compliant. So having say you wanted to hold a function at the pavilion, say, right, and we could make sure that the pavilion was compliant, you could hold a function at the pavilion without running into a problem where someone who was disabled wouldn't be accommodated. So that's the goal, is to be able to allow a function at, say, the pavilion, or a function down by the pond, and the access off of Old Stamford Road would allow them access in and allow us to then be able to hold one there without having to make an accommodation for someone and move the at that point, the only thing would be to move the event, which we don't want to do.
Gotcha.
John, to your point though, the ADA compliance is a huge asset in grant applications.
That makes sense.
Particularly as we're looking at environmental restorations and et cetera, if they're accessible. It just makes an application a little stronger.
I'm sure, because
Yeah.
I suspect that a lot are not able to meet that requirement. A lot of parks are not able to meet
It's
that.
hard, I mean, the land trust is not able to do it at all.
Yeah,
So it makes a big difference in a small park like this.
yeah.
Well, Tiger, it's great that we were able to get that aspect added to it, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then as another portion of the work, we're looking at this area here is where the St. Francis statue would be. We have a little walk off to it, a little pull off to the area, and then we have a substantial amount of plantings going in and along the pathway, the main pathway going in. So there's a sizable amount of work being done. We estimate it's around $80,000, $85,000, and then that'll complete phase 4, and then complete the access in from Mead Park, which is a huge bonus as well. And then as far as access coming from Old Stamford Road, on September 7th, we received an acceptance letter from the state of Connecticut saying that our plans were approved, which was fantastic. So the sidewalk from Park Street to Bristow along Old Stamford Road, including a pull-off parking area for about 4 spaces that we're looking to use pervious pavers on, either pervious pavers or porous pavement. The DOT is allowing that up to us. That's been approved. So we're looking at that construction happening in the spring. We'll put that out to bid over the winter and have that, so that come September, will be done there so, people can park on that side for, when we actually have the ceremony. So I was excited about that we actually were able to finalize that approval with the DOT. That took some time and some effort. So we were happy with that. And as far as the remaining path or the remaining sidewalk from Bristow to Gower, that's in the design phase at present. So that design will be worked on through the winter time, and we'll come back with a design at that point in time. We're looking at the potential of a sidewalk on either side of the street. So we're trying to look at both sides of the street to see what would work better. And then hopefully get that connection to Gower Road so that people can make a link all the way through from Mead through Bristow and via sidewalk down to South School and beyond to the high school and then to Waveney. So I don't know if you have any other questions for me.
That's pretty exciting, and I guess I was aware that there's some discussion as to which side of the sidewalk would be best for a walkway. My sense is obviously one side looks broader and wider than the other, and if there's a concern about a turn, I would have thought you would have had to guardrail it or something anyway to protect that one aspect of it where people seem to run through, but I'm gonna let the engineers come up with the solution that can win. If that debate ever comes in front of, I don't know whether it goes in front of the police or where that discussion of placing the sidewalk would go, I'd like to be a proponent of it, if that would help.
No, that's fine. Well, it's it'll be a public. I'm looking at it probably being a public hearing. When we did Main Street, we had a public hearing. This is a little bit more interesting because it's a state road. So the police commission doesn't have much to opine on since it's a state road, but we would go to them for some input. And then since it's a state road and it's not necessarily town land per se, but the town would be maintaining it, the council is a little bit difficult as well, but they usually are the final arbiter. So we would look to go to them as well. P&Z takes a step back because the plan of conservation development showed the sidewalk going through, didn't show what side of the street, just showed a sidewalk on Old Stamford Road through this area. So we fit that bill from P&Z. So at that point in time, to your point, P&Z leaves it up to the engineering staff to place it on one side of the street or the other. So we're looking at both sides, similar to what we did on Main Street for the first sidewalk we did in town back in 2012. And then to see what is the best option. And then obviously it will have to go through the DOT since it's their road, their right of way. So we would have to make sure that it adheres to all their requirements and concerns. So, but as that discussion moves forward, we'll let everyone know, as we get closer to a viable plan on both sides of the street, and then the discussion starts to go on just where we want to go. And if we want to go, I'll let you know, and then everyone can join in the discussion.
So very exciting to get to phase 4. My last question is, will there still be some funds available for fence repair or fence work if needed?
Yeah, we have some additional money. The Parks Department has some additional money in the fencing, in our fencing lines, that if there was something that we saw, we have a little bit in this budget here, but if there's additional monies that are needed, we have some monies available.
It's all good news. It's great that we had about 4 or 5 years of planning to go at this and things start falling into place.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
One thing about, going slow and steady. Any further questions for Tiger? Great, Tiger. Thank you so much for jumping on and giving us the update.
So I do have one quick question unrelated to Bristow, but the hazardous waste day, do we still share that with other towns where?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you missed this one, we have the neighboring towns, you can go there free of charge. What winds up happening is they bill us back for whatever you brought. It's usually based upon a carload. So they would bill us back and we would pay them. So it's a consortium, if you will. It's a shared deal with our neighboring towns. So we get visitors from Darien and Norwalk and elsewhere during our household hazardous waste day, and you're welcome to go there as well.
Right.
And Tiger, I have one last one, sorry for jumping in on this. Pollinator Pathway Group, I guess, Planet New Canaan, asked us for permission to do a little rototilling at the beginning of the wildflower meadow to install the Cam Hutchins planting, pollinator pathway plantings. I said that, I'm okay with it. We'll probably use Titan or another landscape contractor to do that tilling, but they plan to do all the planting themselves.
We're comfortable with that. We don't have a rototiller anymore at the Parks Department, unfortunately, so we can't assist.
Right.
But if you hire someone, we're comfortable with that. And then we're comfortable with volunteers doing the plantings. I think that's a nice add.
Yeah, it takes a village, so, all right, Tiger, thank you so much.
No problem. All right, I'm gonna jump if that's okay.
Got it. Take
Okay.
care.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Andy, I suspect that you've got things going on around. Do you want to talk a little bit right up front about your ideas for communication? It's actually item 7B on the agenda, so if you are okay, commissioners.
Yeah.
To discuss that.
Sure.
That'd be great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for juggling the agenda tonight to accommodate my schedule. So regarding this idea of having a conservation commission social media presence, as I described in a previous meeting, I've been observing what other town accounts do and how effective it seems. And I've had some informational interviews with the people who run those accounts, PR folks and administrators. And there doesn't seem to be a town policy around social media. I think, we in this, the context of these meetings, this is where we decide what our policy is on our social media feed. So I've put some thought into that. And as I've, have been finding my footing as the newest commissioner on here, I basically decided, I should run this, I should just start this and run it. I was hoping initially that there was an intern, like a possibility of an intern who could do this for us, but it doesn't seem like we have access to that. And the quickest way to do this is just to start. And so for now, I'm proposing myself as the administrator of our social media account. I think we should start with Instagram and do an auto post feature so that we have also a Facebook account. You basically post on Instagram and then it automatically goes up on the on your Facebook feed. And the sort of the goal here, I think, I've sort of spelled out, what we might want to do here. And I think, first of all, there's storytelling. We want engagement and we want growth for the Conservation Commission's, presence in the town. So, using, storytelling and engagement, that's what we want. Public information, that's, events, announcements, and services that town residents can take advantage of. Also, education on our core issues is key, and strategy. So, mission aligned posts that help promote, what we're trying to do on the commission. And then lastly, and this one I think is really important, is celebration. We're celebrating the successes of not just the commission, but also our partner organizations in town, and also successes of residents. So that means, what I have in mind is a little bit of reporting where, let's say someone has a rain garden or a native plantings or a meadow, or someone has built something on their property that is aligned with the goals of the Conservation Commission. Maybe someone hires out a landscaping crew that uses only electric machines, or something. Whenever we find something to celebrate, we can feature residents and celebrate them there. So I think that an Instagram feed is a perfect place to do that. It's a matter of sort of finding a voice that works, but also I think for the purposes of this meeting, I think a conversation about process is important. Who decides what goes up there, and how do we talk to each other? If a fellow commissioner has an issue that's their issue and they want to write that post, they should be able to do that. So I think we should have an Instagram account that has multiple, you can have multiple people with access to it, so that anybody can, anyone here in this meeting should be able to post on that account. I think, and this is, this is up for debate here, but I don't think any of us should just sit down and post something. I think we should always have a process where at least one other commissioner gives the okay, or the entire commission has the option to give feedback on something before it's posted. So I would propose that before you post something, you first send it around in an email to the group, and then the group has 24 hours to get back to you with edits and feedback. And maybe something's killed in that process. I don't know if you all want to receive emails from me or from other commissioners like, hey, I'm going to post this picture of a bird, with this caption. Does this look good to everyone? So that's something that I'd like to hear from you all before we proceed, so that everyone's comfortable with the process and everyone feels that they have a hand in contributing to what would be, I think, our first real sort of public, voice, on social media anyway. So I'd love to hear from anyone who has thoughts, on how they'd like to see it work.
I think the approval process sounds good. I mean, we may need more than 24 hours to get to our emails. But I think that we should the first post should be to introduce, what we're doing and who we are and what our mission is and our goals, and in a very community friendly way. And I think we should just proceed, and
Great. Just a note on what you said, community friendly. I think that's key because we obviously don't want to be wagging a finger at our community and saying, stop this and stop that. And, it can't, that can't be how we
of our posts. Just because you still have a lawn, we don't want to, with all the pesticides and nitrogen and phosphorus in your lawn, we're not going to shame you for it. We just want to give you alternatives. So those kind of things.
Exactly. That's the thing that I think we need to spell out for ourselves, that we don't want to shame anybody. And this is not an exclusive club where everyone has their own timeline for developing their consciousness around these things. So go on. I'd love to hear from John or Susan, Chris.
I think that's a wonderful, as you laid it out, a wonderful idea. I think the 2 eyes on anything that gets posted publicly makes a lot of sense. And I think that's sufficient too, right? Everyone gets posted, and once you have a second, okay, as long as you don't have a please pause, right? Which we would all need, right? as long as there's no please pause, I think a second, okay, should be sufficient, right? 2 out of 5 of us say, this looks decent, is good enough for me anyway.
I don't know, I think in the beginning, I think ultimately down the road, maybe that's fine, but in the beginning, I think we all are sort of tiptoeing in this, and maybe we all need to take a look at it, and,
Well, the majority would be 3 out of 5.
yeah, well, I'm not talking about majority, it's just tone, content, you know, I just think that, we all kind of need to look at that, and then as this proceeds, you know, if we all become comfortable with it,
Then it could be one.
then it could be one more.
I think that makes sense. Susan?
No, I'm good. I think it's a learning experience
Right.
for one who is not on
Definitely.
Instagram myself. I think it is, an opportunity for us to understand a little bit better.
Yeah.
How these messages get received
Right.
and how we deliver. So, we're not gonna come shooting out of the box, no.
Annie, I think there were two things I did like. Linda's thought about, you know, who we are and what our mission is. Conservation Commission is a great way to start the story. But I also think it should be possible to brainstorm 10 possible Instagram, in other words, say, here are 10 ideas that I think could be, you know, it could be dark skies, quiet neighborhoods, tree planting, you know, pick a rate, pollinator. But if we came up with 10 topics, I think we'd all look at that and say, these are good ones, these are things to build stories on. And
Great.
so, pardon?
That sounds great.
Yeah, if we did that, I think you'd have the kernel for what could come out in this. And I would say, you know, it'd be great to say we'll have at least 1 a month, but it could be 2 a month, 3 a month, or 4 a month. It depends. I mean, if we want to focus on, you know, me personally, I might want to put some bird pictures up. Say, oh yeah, here's a yellow-bellied sapsucker
Love that one.
hanging out in Bristol Park. Come take a walk on our new pathways kind of thing.
Right.
So there's a mixture of communicating, marketing, and putting ideas out.
Yeah,
And sometimes it might even just be to share other people's material, pollinator pathway story that comes out or what have you. So, all for it, Annie, if we can come up with that outward bound communications, I think it would benefit our cause. Great.
As far as you learned in chatting with folks, there is no town policy with regard to commissions doing this thing? No,
No,
which is,
Yeah, we are initiating.
yeah.
I know, it seems strange.
No, we're initiating this.
yeah, I think one of the areas we do have to watch out for is that we don't, you know, contradict what other town organizations, government organizations are putting out there. So for example, the dark skies issue is an important one. And if you look at the New Canaan Police Department feed, they've got posts about adding lighting, add as much lighting, you know, and their priority is safety, which is understandable. And so, you know, that might be a phone call, you know, over to a counterpart over there, and so that we have a coordinated message.
And we might say, if you're gonna add lighting, is it gonna be down lighting? Is it gonna be yellow lighting? Is it gonna be migratory, you know, problematic? You know,
Or motion detector.
Or
lighting,
motion
which is
detector.
really the most effective for
Right.
what the police department wanted.
I like this idea, and I think we could also use Instagram to post our agendas. I mean, we could just say,
Sure.
you know,
There's a meeting.
There's a meeting, if you wanna bring some ideas forward, we're dying for general public input, you know, we would love to have it.
That'd be
So-
great. I haven't seen any town residents at our meetings yet, so but maybe we can use the Instagram to drum up some.
Oh, just post something really, really controversial
Yeah.
and you will have. a
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to jump off here, but I'll check out the minutes for the rest of the meeting.
One quick thought, I mean, I'd love to get you an intern help, like, obviously you, I think, need to guide it, right, and get it going. But I would have to think in the high school, there'd be people who would be anxious to have this on their college resume, you know, as something they're involved in. I'm sure we could find some help, you know.
Great idea. I'd love that.
On that same subject, I have worked with the Sacred Heart. I forget what their graduate school is called, but they have a whole student population who are focused on social media and communications.
Yeah.
And they look for projects which build their resume, so when they are, and they have a whole program for nonprofits, and so it might be just worth doing a shout out to them.
Yeah.
And their
Great.
students are what I would call, mature students. Most of them are in their late 20s, early 30s, so they're really looking for projects that have some, you know, content to them.
Great. Susan, I'll follow up with you about that.
Okay, I'm happy to give you the contact information.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I haven't seen it.
I'm gonna jump off. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Greetings, First Selectman, welcome.
You have an audience or? are you-
Yeah.
Now we're just,
Now it's just us.
but it's being recorded on Zoom
Sure.
for presence. Would you like to say a word or two, or?
No, I didn't, about to leave, so I thought I'd stop in to see how you're doing.
Excellent.
Well,
What's on your, what's on your agenda?
well, we're gonna talk a little bit about, just a quick update on Bristow. And then talk a little bit about the open space, and the P O C D. And then, not, after that, we've already touched on a couple of topics, but I think on, from a sustainable, New Canaan, silver certificate update, Robin will probably come to us in October with an overall update, but she's working on getting the points towards that.
Yeah.
Have their committee met recently, or it's just on August doldrums?
No, it has not met.
Probably September, October.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, again, we're here.
Well,
to
we did
support that.
meet in the summer, sorry about, you know, the food resources,
Right.
the food scraps.
Food
We did-
scraps
There
and
was
food
a
scraps,
very
exactly.
good meeting about that, and she sent out the minutes. for that.
Yeah,
So-
okay. Well, I don't know whether we're on track for silver certification or not, but I think that there are a lot, she's got all the pieces she needs, and I think she's working through the equity pieces.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
anything we can do to help her, be happy to do. I sent out a note to all the commissioners, earlier about, where things are on Bristow. I think my big question now is, getting a guest speaker or two for September 8th, 2024. I'd like some suggestions.
Not too soon to look.
Not, you know, the bigger the speaker, the further in advance you have. to
Exactly. Do we have a budget for that?
We have, we have some, the Friends of Bristol Park can support that a little bit. I was hoping that the first selectman would get, if you would be able to stand up and talk.
When is this?
It's September 8th, 2024.
I don't know where I'll be. Go ahead.
I'm sure you'll be on a beach somewhere. With a margarita.
I'll be there, I'll be there.
That's great.
I'm thinking of David Sibley's Bird Guides.
Yeah.
He's up in Mass,
Yeah.
and it's
yeah.
possible if I book him far enough in advance.
Oh,
he'd
but
come down.
he's been here before.
He has been
He
here, I
has
think.
been here. He gave a presentation, I think at the country school.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah,
No, the presentation country school was Doug Talbot. Maybe he did one too, so.
I think Sibley did too.
Well, I'm open to ideas.
Who runs the Theodore Roosevelt Sanctuary over there?
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
either.
Because they restored theirs for like $7 million or so.
Yeah, I think it's an Audubon, so that may be one of
Just
the,
across the town.
right? The other thought was, you know, to engage some more people, do you invite a state or a national politician, you know, so the environment, you know, I'm not talking about Stephen Mather, but maybe there's someone from a government area that would be interesting, hard to imagine, I guess.
Well, some of our reps are really involved in environmental
Right,
projects.
right. I don't want it to be too political, but I
Yeah.
do want, you know, the attention drawn to public spaces and public parks and, you know, wildlife
Yeah,
sanctuaries.
yeah.
But if in the course of,
Jim Hines.
Jim Hines, yeah, totally. He visited the nature center. I mean, he comes and visits our parks and our organizations, so,
I worked with him ages ago too.
you work with them?
Yeah.
With Jim.
yeah,
But you want the name, I mean, I agree with Jim,
yeah,
should be there.
totally.
But you want a name as a speaker?
Yeah, I'm looking for ideas for people, because I can reach out, so I know that, Blumenthal goes to the, Connecticut Land Conservation Council, and goes to big talk there. So he stops in, but I didn't know, I didn't really have a contact there or anything like that. But I'm sort of like starting to want to reach out, and I think we can have somebody who talks in the birding side, kind of like from that, you know, avian sense, and a political discussion, but I also want a local speaker, I want a town speaker. I was thinking, you know, Kevin, again, I was hoping that you'd be able to give that talk and just talk about, you know, in your time, why public spaces are important. So you'd give an address, it wouldn't be long, maybe 5 minutes or 4 or 5 minutes to talk.
Yeah.
And then, I suspect that it'll be a series of short talks, but, there are 2 people I'd be interested in hearing from. One is, Jim Webster, who grew up near the park
Uh-huh.
and is a little boy in the picture, to talk about how that influenced his life. The other person, would be Phil Ives, who would be pretty interesting, who's, you know, an incredible birder here in town. So I'd have about 5 speakers, and it would be, broken up with, the musical performances by, Gwyneth Walker's, quintet.
Mhm.
So that would be sort of entertaining.
Sure.
Where do you see this happening with this multitude of people?
I think you can do it right there at the pavilion, and what you would do is you just arrange seats in kind of, arcs around it. I would suspect it would be maybe 75 to 100 people.
Well, that's a lot for that small space.
But you could move up the trail and down the trail and have.
But, okay, but the further away you get, you lose a line of sight.
Yeah, but I think I'll have some kind of,
Television set.
I'm sorry.
Television set.
Well,
Screen.
I don't think, I don't want to, I haven't really worked, I haven't sussed it all out, but I would like to be in the park.
I
Because,
would agree with you, but I think a little bit of I mean, the pavilion is nice because it provides a little.
well, it provides some shelter for the musicians, and it creates a orchestral effect, it bounces the music out.
Right.
The music travels, that's no problem, the
No.
music travels out.
And you don't have to.
And sound will travel out with a couple of small speakers. Well, you know, I can give it some more thought, but I suspect the only thing I haven't really put together the whole agenda, but I know it'll start at 2. It'll probably end at 3:30. And it'll include, another, dedication ceremony with the Francis statue that will be unveiled at that point as well. So it's both, and it'll also commemorate there'll be like a little, memorial commemoration of the founders of the park and things like that. There's work being done now on the history of it that will be used to do it, so. Any ideas you have going forward on this would be, you know.
I have,
appreciated.
in my experience, just found it very difficult to go to a speaking event and actually not see the speaker, because you.
Sure, absolutely.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So
No,
I think
you have to figure that, the seating out.
Think about that,
Figure-
how you develop
Right.
your area. The music
Figure-
is so important,
Mhm.
but definitely the speakers.
I take your point on that one.
What if that, I'm sorry to bring this up, but what if there's rain? Are we in rain dates or are we going to have a tent?
I think I'll probably,
Because I don't know where a tent would be necessary.
yeah, no, I don't think I'll do a tent because we have the pavilion. If it's a rain day, it'll either be low attendance, lower attendance,
Lots of
or
umbrellas.
I'll do an alternate. I'll think of an alternate date. I'm gonna start working with a committee of people and see what we come up with, and, I'd be more than grateful if you wanted to be involved in setting the agenda. I should point out, and the first selectman is working on this, is that also in this coming period, you'll get the assistance or support of the land trust, because there's gonna be a public-private, arrangement.
Yeah.
So, they have a resource,
Right.
a resourcing thing, and they're gonna wanna make
Right,
noise about this as well.
right.
So, I think we're lining things up.
I think the area around the pond is so much more open
Mhm.
and easy to sort of stage something where.
Where was it so far from parking? And you're at the other end of the park, if you can park, because we're leaving the park on Old Sanford Road.
There's only places for cars.
It's gonna be across the street.
Yeah, to be-
It'll be tricky.
Not ideal.
I think we're sort of at the midpoint
Yeah.
kind of thing, and there's a bit of there might be a shuttle for seniors. I might get a couple of golf carts to bring, I can get Mike Rowe to lend us.
What if you did it in the column area at the park, if it was at a time when the no competing sporting events, which probably, maybe that never happens anymore, with kicking the ball there.
Now, the pickleball, there's always a background noise for pickleball.
Maybe is that possible? What day of the week is it? What
It's
is
a
it?
Sunday afternoon,
Sunday afternoon, maybe,
2 o'clock.
maybe you use the meat park facilities to sort of have the ceremony and then you walk over to.
Give it some thought.
Yeah.
We'll see how it
The
plays.
parking is an
Yeah.
issue.
I'm,
Have a tour be, for the, like, for the unveiling of Francis, then you. go to the market.
You're gonna walk in for that, for sure.
Yeah,
Well, give us some thought about how big it'd be in the likely number of attendees.
Well,
It might be, more an invitation as opposed to, wide open.
I think that's the thing.
I mean, you gotta balance it off between, how many people come. I'd love the neighborhood to attend.
I like the thought of having throngs of people. waiting to
Yeah.
get-
That would be a high quality one.
No, I wouldn't dispute it. I think invitation is,
And you might,
I'm with Susan.
you might move
You have to have
it,
somebody
move it
check
indoors
the
if it's
invitation
like
at the
the third
door.
one or someplace, so you
Pardon me?
move it indoors if there's rain rather than try to.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
might be a move
Yeah.
indoors,
Yeah.
Yeah.
opportunity. Yeah, maybe that's it.
My 2 cents would be hour and a half, maybe hour to hour and a half rather than hour and a half plus.
Okay, and the whole event, not more than 90 minutes?
Not more than that, yeah. Including the inevitable.
I mean, you have all these speakers, everybody knows to that.
Right,
Well, these are all details. that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are
And we're not gonna-
we've been to it.
It'll be great. Something like that.
Yeah.
The commemoration, so, all right, thank you for that term. And, there's some work to do there, but I do like a couple of suggestions, either from the Long Island, Roosevelt Park, Heinz or Blumenthal. Seating plans, attendee rain alternates, and I think you're right, max plan 60 to 60 minutes. Program, and then a half hour where you could, I would like to offer some,
Yeah.
Kool-Aid,
Yeah,
wine and
exactly.
snacks or something like that.
Take care.
Okay, way to go.
Too late.
Well, I don't, what if you drink that? Gatorade.
If not that, I'll tell you.
It's funny, there was a discussion of the land trust allowing scouts to camp on them. Making one of the sites successful, and it's complicated, but I can remember when I went camping, it was Kool-Aid, water and thing. All right, stay on track. I'd like to, we got another 15 minutes. We heard about the phase 4 plans, so I don't need to touch on that.
Yeah,
Remarkably, the Bristol oak, the wood has been milled. I've had 3 different woodworkers approach to say, I'd like blanks, I'll make bowls. So there, people are gonna make benches, small end tables, bowls, cheese boards. So we're gonna kind of have this range of product that will then become a Friends of Bristol Park gifts or fundraising kind of thing. The idea is to build a little bit of an endowment. There's bird food.
then I was thinking about the event and an auction of these items or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But then one or two of them,
Right.
the special ones, we could auction and that people would.
Oh, I think it's gonna be pretty neat, because it's 300-year-old wood, the grain is
Yeah,
beautiful, and these
yeah.
woodwork people like, how can I, how do I get some of this? So we'll see
Yeah.
how that plays out. The fellow who built the bird blind says he could make two benches. One bench would be just a flat bench, and it would be made with, what they call double live edge oak, which would be kind of nice. And the other one would be a bench, live oak, and then they now sell these metal brackets that come off the back, so it would have a back rest
Okay.
as well. So getting two benches made out of the oak would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then there's gonna be board available, so I'm pretty pleased at how that's sort of fallen together. Robin Bates Mason and Susan Bergen from the Land Trust are leading the Cam Hutchins pollinator pathway plan. Susan, I know you mentioned you'd like to get, stay on that, so keep pinging them, because they're, I think, getting closer to, you heard me get permission to say they can rotate.
Is Robin the contact for me?
Robin would be the
Okay.
contact. And you might see her tonight if you're going to the event.
One of them.
There's a.
And
Green Gala.
at the Carriage Barn is Planet New Canaan's annual
Oh,
event.
right.
Which
And
I'm
then-
sure you'd be more than welcome to.
Yeah.
I'm sure I will.
John is going, so you get it right.
I have a certificate if you want to go.
There you
No, that's nice. There are two birdie walks on the 22nd and the 20th at 8:30 in the morning, and then one on October 11th at 10 a.m. That's a great Instagram opportunity.
Yeah,
to get
sure.
people out.
go. For sure.
Yeah.
And it's Frank Gallo, so it is sort of fun, because he will spot something that you haven't seen.
Mhm.
They'll say, that's a rose-breasted grosbeak, or something like that, and like getting binoculars out. So we'll see where we get to.
Is that at Bristol?
At Bristol, yeah, you meet at Mead Park, and then you walk into Bristol.
Right.
Did you just teed him up on those particular dates? How did that come about?
It's his days, that is
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
can do it, because he's also a nature center employee.
Right.
And these are, and it's also the migratory period, so
Mhm.
this is when you want to get out there, and it's really dawn and dusk, kind of morning and evening. That the activity is there. And then lastly, the Francis pediment is being fashioned as we speak. In other words, it's a massive stone that is gonna be a big rock. And they've leveled the top of it and set the pins in. And once I have it up, then I'll also probably approach some people for, see if somebody wants to sponsor the whole thing, and then the funds go back into the Bristol point. I suspect that the entire cost of it through installation will be in the region of $25,000. This is but it's, it's not quite monumental, but it'll be a monument for the park.
Yeah.
So, that's underway.
Is Frank going back to the, is that whose responsibility is to promote that? Or who else?
The Friends of Bristol Park are promoting it a little bit,
And the
and
nature center.
and the nature-
It's on very.
it's on there very soon, so they talk about
Yeah,
come walk in this park or what. Yeah, there's a cross thing there.
and I
Happy
don't
to
in my
post it.
too, I haven't seen it, but I can't remember. I
Something can-
remember getting a newsletter recently.
Right.
Might not-
Oh, I think what we'll do is we'll put it into the newspaper happenings and for next week.
Yeah.
And into the Thursday Vision Here column.
Yeah.
Right.
For next week. Yeah. Right, that's Bristow. I don't know if you've been in it recently, but Titan redid, landscape, the fernery, and then the big corner lot where the stairs are, and it looked great. If she used pieces of, larger pieces of the oak that came down, that were a little bit too big for the chipper. So these pieces are now used to line around the furnace. So it's,
Oh, very nice.
and they're, because they're all sort of odd, they cut them, so
Right.
it's got a little bit of movement all around, which is nice. So a lot of that tree's gotten used, and if any of you want a fire with, there's a big pile of it at the transfer station. Hard to get at, you need chainsaws.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
did,
know, Andrea has 2 seedlings.
oh, excellent, I owe her an answer.
She does, that's good.
Andrew
I
Sanders,
talked to her about it, yeah, Andrea Sanders.
you spoke with her?
Yes, because she was asking about the acorns, and I
Yeah.
said, you know, I think those acorns are not, I don't know if they're.
Oh, she took the acorns. and she-
No, she did not, she actually found the seedlings.
Oh.
Because those oaks don't do acorns every year.
Right, this is a mass year, as it turns out, but they don't every year.
No.
So did she lift,
Mhm.
lift them and she's got them potted?
She has them in, and she's contacted the, not the nature, Stanford Nature Center, but that,
Bartlett, Arboretum?
maybe that's it, about taking care of it. They have to go outside for the winter.
Yeah,
But I think that's fantastic. for the-
we could plant one back inside the
We
fence.
should-
I told her, I said it would be fantastic, this part of the centennial.
Yeah.
I stepped out, to plant one of these, or both of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
As part of the event.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I get
We
it.
should watch,
Yeah.
to see, because some could be coming up. in
Right.
July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta watch them too. That's
Yeah.
great. When you talk to her, tell her that's great news, or we'll follow up with saying, whatever we can do now.
Okay, I'll send her, a text. She's very,
Just
very delicate.
got it. All right,
Um,
that's great.
Is there more wood to be had if there are other woodworkers who would like?
Yes.
Some of it? Okay.
Yes, there are a lot of 1-inch planks and 2-inch. 2-inch, what they call it, 8-quarter
Right,
width boards.
right.
And then there are a series of what they call blanks that you can give, like pieces about this big that you can cut the bowl out.
Okay.
Or coasters out.
Okay.
So if you know any woodworkers.
Yeah,
Put them in touch with myself, I'll put them in touch with David Heim, who runs the woodworking classes at Silvermine.
gotcha.
And then so far Lars Anderson
Oh,
and I think Dave Hutchins are 2 woodworkers who have come by and picked up wood already.
okay.
So they're both making for for the Friends of Bristol, for Bristol Park.
No.
Dave
Yes.
Hutchins or Jim Hutchins?
Anna Hutchins, wife,
That, yeah,
right?
your Anna Hutchins' husband.
Husband. And I mean, Anna Hutchins, wife. Okay. So I'm pleased that I'm getting
It's
people,
John.
and then Lars Anderson is another,
It
So-
is John,
pardon?
it's John.
Right. So fun with that, and then just quickly, there'll be another nature and environment meeting at the library. September 26th. And again, I think we're getting in front of it, and the other big piece of this is that online survey.
Yeah.
If you haven't done it yet,
I haven't done mine yet.
have you been able?
Yeah, I find them so frustrating.
They are, but what you have to do is, particularly what we want to do is reach out to all our conservation groups.
Yes,
To say, come in and weigh in on this matter.
this would be great if you already had the online presence.
Right.
Do you, so,
It's very
do you
easy.
think the results will be in by the next meeting?
No, I don't think so.
Because it's just when, I got 2 surveys.
I am intrigued as how they,
Well, I think
Control.
I think everyone in the town must have gotten one,
I
and
think-
then I got one through
well,
through Lola.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think everyone in the town must have been sent a survey.
I think they flooded the airwaves.
Yeah.
People are sending out their, I'm making sure that, the land trust and the Wayne Park Conservancy Board get it. It's important for us, which are generally fragmented groups, to be coming in.
Yeah,
So garden club membership and all these different groups, which is an important point, which I hope, I'll get to Mickey at Porta and say, let's make sure that we send it out to this group, that they filter it out to their
Yeah.
followers. My sense is that this is the opportunity to try to bump up
Absolutely.
the awareness, and to do that, you gotta really step on the pedal.
yeah, you do, and
You
you
can't
do
just
have,
be meek about it.
you have to spend time with the survey, you
Yeah.
definitely do.
Yeah, and not be thinking about asking people to
Right.
to fill it out.
Got it, because, whether we're talking about trees or quiet neighborhoods or pollinated pathways for lawns or stone walls or open space and things like that, this is really a great time to get in there with it. So, whatever we do to message that out would be good.
I think it needs, my experience with surveys is that one and done is not working. You have to.
Yes.
Repeat, because
Oh, yeah.
it depends on when you hit someone.
Right,
And it takes,
Yes.
took me an hour and some.
wow, you were pretty
I
close.
got into
Do
it.
you get to print out when you put in, or it just
No.
disappears?
No,
And we have 2 days, or 2 weeks rather, before it.
Right.
So.
yeah,
Yeah, you're just really.
I'm sure they seem to be a very, very smart group about surveys and research, so I'm sure that. I mean, that was a very good survey, so I'm sure that they'll be sending it out again, no, because they want to get out, they want to get a response rate. You know, if they don't get the response rate, they'll continue to send it out until they do.
And, but a bit selfish,
And I
we
think
want,
it's-
we want it targeted at the
And,
people
yeah.
that think will support conservation efforts.
Well, you know, it's sort of self-selected too, you know, people that have interest in.
Well, yeah, and, you know, we want to, you
But
gotta keep
because a
looking.
lot of it is about, you know, the quality of life in town.
Right,
Well,
So-
let's not forget that people who have other agendas are equally
Yeah.
interested in influencing the survey.
Yeah.
we're trying to
Right.
lead on that scale a little
We're
bit.
trying, yeah,
Yeah.
trying to put some bias in there.
Right.
Yeah, get our voice heard.
Um, so there's that, the survey, and then just briefly, as you know, I've been pushing to get the land acquisition fund capitalized. And, I've finally I've been working with one of the Board of Finance, members. And, recently, met with, another, a member of the Board of Finance to promote an algorithm that would make it, more consistent about putting funds aside, and the algorithm works this way. Over the past 10 years, the real estate sales conveyance fee, when people sell their real estate, it's 25 basis points, 1/4%. That has created revenues of between $1 and $2 million a year. In a very big turnover year, it's 2 million, in a slow turnover year, it's 1 million. So the mechanism that I've promoted is, and John, you probably would understand this better, is simply a threshold system, so that if revenues only reach $1 million, no money goes into the land acquisition fund. But for every dollar above 1 million, 40% goes into the land acquisition fund, so that if it's 1,100,000, then 40,000 would go into the land acquisition fund. If it was $2 million, then 400,000 would go in, but the town would always hold the
Yeah.
first million, so it's a downside,
It's a scale.
it's a scaled system.
It's just a way to make it more palatable
Yeah.
to the town who's trying to budget.
Right. So, whereas it was a pretty good balk at, 10 of the 25 basis points into the land acquisition fund, this creates a that it creates a floor, and it allows a certain amount of money to go as it was legislatively intended to go. So there is a chance that this will move forward unless it gets, derailed by the next,
Yeah.
dilemmas. But if we can get the algorithm in, that means that it reduces the, what are we gonna do, and should we put in, is it 50, is it 150, it's more of a process. So I'm hopeful that that'll happen.
I think it provides also a, level of stability in terms of projecting funds that the town has for their budget every year. Which is a big problem. So you created, this is yours, and this is ours, share.
And again, if the numbers drop, then there's less, if it's above, there's more, it's one of those things, because there's slight unpredictability about it. So it's always a measured, conservatively
Right.
measured number, just like we're only gonna collect 98%. But we
Yeah.
collect 99.9%. revenue, so.
The other thing that's nice about having a hard number like 1 million that you have to exceed is that as time progresses over the decade, if this remains unchanged, that million doesn't inflate on you, right? So that simply.
Right, as land
As
values,
land values go up 10 years from now, that'll seem like a very easy threshold.
this is pretty important.
And in 10 years, it probably will have changed. Board of Finance would have woken up.
Well,
I think threshold here.
Well, it's possible. There is
Inflation.
a possibility that they might put a cap on the amount of funds that keep.
I was gonna ask that because
And I
I think,
suspect my argument would be, yeah, at about 5 million, you could start thinking about a cap.
oh, I think you need to go higher.
You know, like a bit higher than that. What do I hear? What do I
You
hear?
know, because you're talking about some serious properties out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if a water company property became available, it's no $5 million.
yeah,
No, that's true, but, well, I will be interested in hearing where they would come. You know, the great news is if I get to a cap, I've got the algorithm in, then I'm working on the next, it's a higher quality problem.
it's a high quality.
I do believe that, I have always made the case that whatever money they put in is leverage. In other words, if they come up with money, there's state money
Right,
that
right,
leverages,
right.
and there could be land trust
Right, right.
money that leverages, or there could be a bargain sale element that
Exactly.
leverages.
There
So,
could be a lot of matching opportunities.
so, that's sort of where that's sort of.
The cap would be a high quality problem. The argument you can use against the cap would be, let's not create unintended incentives, right? So when you get to 5 million, are people all of a sudden looking to buy something simply because they want to be able to continue to replenish, right? So that's kind of a little, it's a small argument.
Interesting
Yeah.
twist on it.
Yeah,
Well, just keep in mind that if that mechanism had been in place over the past 10 years, it would have only accumulated 2.5 million. It would average about 250,000 a year, so we're talking about 20 years,
Yeah.
maybe 15 years to get to a certain cap, but maybe right at 5 million or 7
What did the
It's a minor.
Indian Waters property?
Pardon?
The Indian Waters property.
That transacted for 2.85 million.
There you go. And that
So
was how many years ago?
do you think they'll ask for a cap? I mean,
It seems like they might or might not.
okay, well, if they don't, then don't.
in the scheme, that's a very minor point, right?
So, so you know that's in play, and that'll be on October 10th at their meeting. And then, our budget is our budget. We have the river testing funds set aside, hopefully correct. The P O C D open space mapping will come into play if they're gonna take the work that was done with CAM and the land trust in 2017, 2018,
Right,
parse it again to make sure they got everything right. And then, you know, so I said, well, if that's gonna cost money to do, here's some funding to support that, because we really need that down, because that's the basis for saying these big blocks
Yeah.
are what you have to prepare.
right.
And then, any other questions for it? I was just gonna touch briefly on, organizational structure for 2024. One thing I do wanna push on is there is gonna be a charter review. You know, they have to do it about every 10 years, a charter update. And I'd like your thoughts on this. I think that the Conservation Commission would be better if it could have 7 members.
I totally. I think we need more numbers.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
7's a manageable number, right? And
Yeah.
more people, you know, resolve.
Yeah.
Right, so at 7, 2 people could meet without having to, you know, or 3 people could meet without having to announce a meeting. In other words, there's been working party opportunity
Mhm.
there,
Yeah,
teaming. And what I was gonna suggest is that the charter allow for up to 7 members and up to 2 alternates. So that in the cycling,
Yes, alternates are important, right?
alternates are important because they also, set the stage for
right,
coming forward.
right.
And that's.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's
This,
one of the
you
things.
know, I think that's great. I mean, this is a small number of people and as volunteers to accomplish all the things
Yeah.
Right.
we want to accomplish.
Right, we have a very broad remit. And yet, you know, what I find is if I can't stay focused on one thing, I'm gonna have trouble. I'm trying to drive one thing, but it's hard to drive a broader front with
Right.
where we all are.
Right,
So, and I think we're making some great progress in things in terms of our dialogue and our discussion. It seems that, you know, there are other people who are interested in what we're doing. So, and if we can help things forward, you know, this is, you know, we now have a kind of an annual budget that we can kind of work towards certain messages, certain
Right.
things.
right,
If at some point someone said, well, you know, what if we put up $2,000 towards people converting from gas to electric, you know, you can get a $50
right,
coupon or a $100, whatever it is. We could create buzz for small amounts of money.
yeah, yeah.
So, that's sort of where we are.
Great,
It is 6:08.
perfect.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Susan, do you want to end the recording? Or, let's grab that vote and, you got it, John? I'm standing. I'm sorry.
I would likely erase the whole thing. So let's not let me touch anything. You're sure?
Thank you.